The gentleman from California is now recognized on the amendment for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The United States is at the forefront of clean energy development and clean energy deployment globally. Not only are we developing countless private renewable energy projects across the country, we have hundreds more wind, solar, and geothermal projects on federal lands, with many more on the way. If we are to remain a global leader in renewable energy deployment, then we should ensure that any new oil and gas drilling does not impede the rapid deployment of renewable energy projects that are so critical to our energy independence and security. And before we consider approving even more land for outdated and highly polluting forms of energy, we must continue on our march into the future and invest in renewable energy projects, not just on federal lands, but in every community that stands to benefit from these projects. My amendment would require the Secretary not only to certify that increased oil and gas drilling on federal lands will not negatively impact renewable energy project development, but also prohibit the inclusion of any recommendations to expand such drilling in this plan if it would do so. Yes, we must make gas affordable at the pump, but the President of the United States has already helped lower prices for the American people by drawing down the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. And in fact, the underlying legislation would create additional barriers to keeping gas prices low. The answer is not more drilling. The answer is to invest in renewable energy and to make these new technologies affordable for everyday Americans. And if we want to keep the United States from falling second to China in the deployment of renewable energy projects, then we should be taking every reasonable step to continue their deployment. My amendment would do just that by ensuring that the plan required in the underlying bill mitigates any impacts to renewable energy projects on federal lands. I urge my colleagues to vote yes on my amendment. Thank you, and I yield back.
The gentleman from California yields back his time. For what purpose does the gentleman seek recognition?
Mr. Chair, I do insist on the point of order.
The gentleman will state his point of order.
The amendment violates Clause 7 of Rule 16 of the Rules of the House because it is not germane to the underlying bill. Specifically, the bill limits the drawdown of petroleum in the Strategic Petroleum Reserve until the Department of Energy develops a plan to increase the percentage of federal lands leased for oil and gas production. But the amendment would establish an effective date based on the certification of federal lands considered for the plan will not impact deployment of renewable energy projects on federal lands. Since this bill is about strategic petroleum supply, the deployment of renewable energy projects is outside the scope of H.R. 21, and the amendment is not germane.
Does any member seek to speak on this point of order?
Mr. Chairman.
Gentleman from California is recognized.
Mr. Chairman, I respectfully reject the point of order against my amendment. Adding limitations to the scope of the existing plan required in paragraph 1 falls squarely within the jurisdiction of the base text and the legislative intent of the bill.
Did any other members seek time on this point of order to be heard? The gentleman from North Dakota makes a point of order that the amendment is not germane to the bill. The bill prohibits the drawdown of petroleum products in the Strategic Petroleum Reserve until the Secretary of Energy has developed a plan to increase the percentage of certain federal lands leased for oil and gas productions. The amendment in question provides a condition on the effectiveness of the bill. The condition provides that the Secretary will certify that increased drilling will not impact deployment of energy projects on federal lands. The chair believes that oil and gas drilling is reasonably related to the plans contemplated by the bill. In accordance with the chair's detailed analysis of the underlying protocol principles stated earlier today, the chair finds that the conditions imposed by the amendment is related to the subject of the bill. For this reason, the chair finds that the amendment is germane. The point of order is overruled. For what purpose does the gentleman from North Dakota seek recognition?
Mr. Chair, I rise in opposition to the amendment.
The gentleman is recognized for 5 minutes.
H.R. 21 is about strengthening the SPR by requiring any non-emergency use to be accompanied by a plan to produce American oil resources. This amendment undermines the purpose of the bill. It seeks to erect limits for the sake of expanding renewable energy projects on federal land. Yet these very same renewable projects, such as weather-dependent wind and solar, must have natural gas backup and other firm energy to assure reliability. This amendment not only undermines the energy security purpose of this bill, it would help intensify the reliability crisis that is growing worse and worse all across the United States. It's time to get serious about energy security and affordable, reliable energy. I urge a no vote on this amendment, and I yield back.